maybe you're doing something you shouldn't be doing on your land. Doesn't mean you kill these people. It's just sheer accident that they wandered onto your land, died of exposure. But they kind of pose a problem for you, so you get rid of the bodies. You take them across jurisdictional lines and stamp legal. Assuming you don't get caught dumping the bodies, of course.
Well, okay, so you've stitched the whole jurisdictional bit back in a way that I hadn't considered it. But taking them to the same spot, just that's the sticking point for me. If you know what the red zone is, why the hell not drive them 2 miles up to the other edge of the lake and dump them there because it's a red zone? And then everybody would say, oh, well, obviously those ding-dongs walked across the lake and died there and we didn't see them. Like, do you see where I'm coming from?
I see what you're saying. I mean,
it's too convenient to take them back to the starting point for me.
But it just seems to me that the swale was a nice little place to dump the bodies because there's a lot of vegetation there. Especially if the ice is melting and everything, they're not going to be readily. It's a good, easy place right next to the road and the path north of the road. And it could have been that and like I said, a coincidence. So it could have been they recognized honor release and just thought, hey, their wrecked car was found in this spot. Let's just dump the bodies there and not worry about it.
Now you're not saying, so I'm just going to make sure that I understand this. You're not implying that this is a typical dumping ground. This is just a one-off thing.
Yeah, just a one-off.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Just making sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, Devin, you have your own theory. Is that correct?
Indians? I like that one.
Yeah.
I thought you had a real theory.
No. No. Aliens. I mean, aliens is a real theory. For this one is interesting. I guess to wrap it up, I do agree that it seems there's something, to steal a term, kinky going on here.
A little bit.
I have a really hard time believing that their bodies were there the entire time. I have a really, really hard time believing that the search just conveniently missed them. But I also have a hard time believing that, it was a crime of opportunity and they got dumped again, or what happened. I don't know.
How do you murder somebody through exposure? The only way I can think of it is
you lock them in a barn, but then they should be decomposing at the same rate.
They should be, yeah. They should also have all sorts of like marks on their hands from where they were trying to claw out of their enclosure and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there should be. I just don't see any way to murder somebody. You can tie them up and just leave them outside, but then there's going to be
there can be marks. Yeah, like that's.
How do you make that somebody just stay out in the cold without leaving a mark? I can't think of a way to do it.
Short of locking somebody into one of those low deep freezers, I don't know.
Yeah.
Because somebody's going to die in a deep freeze like that very quickly.
Well,
but
they're going to fight too. I mean, there will still be signs of them.
But not nearly as much as locking them in a barn tied up.
Yeah.
I don't know. So I'm out of theories.
Yeah, me too.
This is why I like this case so much, because it's kind of a toughie. If you have any thoughts about this particular case or any of the other cases that we've ever talked about, or you want to share story ideas or anything else you want to chat with us about, you're more than welcome to share that with us. You can email that to us. Our email address is thinkingsidewayspodcast@gmail.com. We are on social media. Obviously, you can share things there as well. So we've got the Facebook page and the Facebook group. We're on Twitter. We've got the subreddit. So those are all avenues as well. Now, for listening to the show, there's a whole bunch of ways to do that. You could do it through our website, thinkingsidewayspodcast.com, which on the website, by the way, we will put some of the links for this particular episode's research, but you can always stream and download from the website. You can stream and download from iTunes, and if you're on iTunes, take the time to leave a comment and a rating. We do appreciate that.
Especially good ratings.
And if you're using a streaming service, whether it be Stitcher or Google Play or any of the other streaming apps that are out there, if they allow you to subscribe and rate, please do so. That is fantastic, because that's, like I said, how people find us. We have a couple of different other things that are on, or actually, I guess it's just one other thing that's on our website, which is merchandise. So we have, through Zazzle and Redbubble, we have a couple of different types of merchandise. So we've got shirts, T-shirts, mugs. I had a whole bunch of shirts going out recently. Evidently, it's the new year of the T-shirt.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Actually, I hate to admit it, I don't have one yet myself. I probably ought to get one.
Well, I thought about buying you one for Christmas, and then I decided I didn't want to. And then I got you that other
That's
thing
too much
instead.
money, I know. Yeah.
No, they're actually not as expensive. But so there's a whole bunch of different kind of merch there. Go to the website on the right-hand side. You will see the links for that. That's all I've got to share today. You guys got any other final parting thoughts or shots?
Just if you're the person or persons who put those bodies back, we'd like to hear from you because I'm pretty sure the statute of limitations has expired. And so I think you really don't need to worry about getting arrested. So just, send us an email. We'd like to know what happened.
All right. I just want to say we'll talk to you next week. And by the way, thanks to the sheriff for actually talking to me.
I know. That's nice of him.
I'm 100% sure it was aliens, guys.
Thinking Sideways is not brought to you by a seagull playing guitar. Instead, it's supported by the generous donations of our listeners on Patreon. Visit patreon.com/thinkingsideways to learn more. And thanks.
Thinking Sideways.
I don't understand.
Does not compute.
You never know.
Insufficient data to formulate a reply.
Stories of things we simply don't know the answer to.
Hey, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Thinking Sideways.
Dun, 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 dun.
No.
You got it right.
Is that it?
I
I think none of us listen to our show.
Yeah.
No.
That's what we're getting from this. Those are
Oh,
our
I
theme
was
songs, right?
doing the other theme song for the show.
Oh, that was
talking
bad.
about.
That was a bad version of it.
Oh, I never said I was. That's the dubstep version of it.
Oh, okay. It was the remix.
Yeah.
The Skrillex remix.
Yeah.
Well, I'm Devin, joined as usual by
Joe.
and
Steve, who can't remix.
no, he doesn't know how. He knows how to mix our show pretty good, and that's about it.
That's all I've did
That's
good
all-
at.
Yeah. So this week we're going to talk about a mystery that I'm calling Art Bell in the Area 51 broadcast. You'll sometimes see it as like the Coast to Coast AM broadcast interruption.
The Art Bell Area
or
51
just the
frantic
Area
caller, I've seen it as.
51 caller. Lots of different stuff. And you did see Area 51 in the name here, but please know this is not an episode about Area 51. We're going to spend paltry little time talking about Area 51.
Yeah, we will talk about it in the future.
We're going to do a 12-part series.
Absolutely. We actually...
That we're going to release over 24 months.
And we have an intern who's working undercover there right now, and
Yeah.
so we'll have lots of juicy video and tapes and stuff like that for you guys.
Yeah.
Oh, did I just out our intern? Holy
Yeah.
crap.
Well, you didn't give Billy's name. So
Oh, okay. So
No,
let's go.
Billy, no!
Alex,
We gotta
you're
pull
right.
him out. We gotta pull him out now.
Oh, Billy's dead.
All right.
He's dead already.
He's not answering his phone.
Oh, man. No, that's a lie. But we will probably at some point do Area 51, or at least different aspects of Area 51. But,
Yeah, there's a lot to
gonna
talk
happen
about there.
eventually.
but please know that this is not that episode. This is very specific to a show.
Sorry to disappoint you guys.
And it was a listener suggestion from June-ish of 2015.
This person's name was Junish.
No. That was about when it was suggested. It was suggested by a gentleman by the name of Derek.
Hey, thanks, Derek.
I didn't actually know it was a listener suggestion until after I decided to do it, because I saw it on one of those. Do you guys ever watch those YouTube, like, top 10s, weirdest unsolved artifact mysteries?
Oh,
yeah.
yeah. Oh, yeah.
I love those. They're like background noise in my apartment. I think I mentioned that before. And I saw this. We were watching one that was like, weirdest broadcast interruptions. And I was like, I know all of these. And it was like, yeah, got it. What? So, and then also, before we get too terribly far, I want to give a huge thanks to Jonathan, who wrote a 17-page summary about Area 51 for us.
Jonathan's an expert for us.
He is an expert for us. He also happens to be an actual real-life Freemason.
if he was really a Freemason, would he tell us?
Yeah, no, they're a real thing.
Yeah.
He emailed us a picture of him with his certificate. Like, it's real. He's a real thing. He's a real thing, and he's a real Freemason. So,
Well, cool.
take
All right.
everything that we say he told us, I guess, with a grain of salt, because probably he's lying to us to throw us off the track.
He probably is one of the
Right?
Illuminati and not
Yeah.
a Freemason at all.
I'm pretty sure that's true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just doing it to diss him.
Yeah. And also, just as a quick aside, because this is probably going to come up, there's a light blinking in our studio. So if we
It
seem
just
a
came
little
on.
extra distracted or giggly,
Or
it's in
weirded
reaction
out?
to that.
It's not because we're worried about the government listening.
No.
But it just
Well,
keeps
maybe.
Maybe.
flickering off and on. It's
Maybe.
Maybe
weird.
we should pause and fix that.
Yeah, maybe we should.
Okay, we'll be right back.
Okay. Okay, we're back.
Wh-
It's fixed.
Yep.
Kinda.
3 podcasters to fix a light.
It actually
but we
did.
did.
Yeah, how many podcasts
Yeah.
does it take to screw on a light bulb?
The answer is 3.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That,
Okay.
well, there, we've just solved another mystery.
That's
Yeah.
true. Yeah. We're done.
Yep.
Taking a break. We'll do this next week, guys. Sound
Yeah,
good?
bye.
Cool. Bye. Just kidding. What we're talking about today is a specific incident that happened in 1997 on the AM radio show Coast to Coast AM. I hope that most of our listeners are at least vaguely familiar with the show, but we might have like a fair number of bandwagoner listeners, people who are just new to the Unsolved Mysteries
True.
community. So for those of you who are uninitiated, let's talk about Coast to Coast AM for a second.
Yeah, actually, we mentioned Art Bell and Coast to Coast in our Holes episode.
Yeah, that's probably true.
Yeah,
We
yeah.
talk about him sometimes. I like him.
Yeah,
You
he's
like
fun.
art a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, Art's all about the paranormal and UFOs and stuff like that, right?
Kinda. Yeah,
Yeah.
we'll talk about him in Sorry, everyone. We had to. I used to listen to this show on my little like handheld radio under my covers. You guys remember those little handheld AM/FM radios?
Oh, yeah.
My parents thought I was asleep, and I was just like huddled under the covers listening to Coast AM. I think both of you have at one point listened to Coast AM as well.
On and off.
Not
Here and
much.
there.
Never like it was just when I was a kid I listened.
If I
sometimes,
listened
but-
to it, it was accidental. I think we talked
Yeah.
about this before. I'm not a big fan of talk radio, which is
Yeah.
an irony. But
Yeah.
I
weird.
I actually like talk radio except for the commercials, and so
Yeah.
I listen to it in my car, but it's like 3 minutes of talking and it's time to go to 5 minutes of commercials, so I switch to another station and I might remember to switch back. you
Yeah,
know, but-
yeah.
So that's otherwise I like it just fine.
Yeah,
but-
that's why I like NPR or whatever. That's like no commercials, but
well, they have commercials.
they
Come
do.
on.
Yeah, the goal of the show was to offer, quote, a forum where callers would not be openly ridiculed, unquote, for their claims. Though Art Bell openly admitted that he didn't really accept every claim, he tried to take a kind of more skeptical view towards things. Whether or not he led on to that in his show, when he was actually interviewing people, he tried to be kind of politic and say, oh yeah, and then ask questions, and I think he was a really good interviewer, really, when it comes down to it.
he didn't just take things at the surface and
No.
bat them down or take a messy word. He tried to find out what
Yeah.
your point was and how you substantiated it, at least in some way, even if he couldn't get it.
Yeah, I actually, personally, as we've mentioned before, I take his style towards our podcast.
Yeah,
And,
I think
you know,
he might not have believed any of that stuff,
Yeah.
but he made out that he believed a lot of it.
yeah. Well, I
but-
think it's the open-minded skeptic.
Yeah, but there's other guys like our friend Clyde, who's on Ground Zero.
Mm-hmm.
I sometimes wondered. I've never actually asked Clyde. And I should ask him sometimes. Like, Clyde, do you really believe all the stuff that you
Because there are
talk about?
times where you can tell that it's tongue-in-cheek, and then there are times where
you're just
you
like,
can't.
what is going on right now?
And
Yeah.
are you serious?
Yeah.
No, really?
Yeah,
No,
yeah.
No, really. I'm not. I'm serious. Like you just can't tell.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's a little bit about Art Bell, and he no longer does Coast to Coast AM. Coast to Coast AM is still a thing, but he's not any part of it anymore, and he in fact thinks it's totally ludicrous now. He hates it.
Really? What's going on with Ghost
It's
Ghost
a
these days?
long.
It's a long story, and this is not a show. As I was about to mention, not only is this not a show about Area 51, but it's also not a show about Coast to Coast AM.
Yeah.
Just about this one incident, kind of.
Yeah, we don't want to do a show about them because then they might do a show about us.
Yeah, and then we would be so sad.
Yeah,
No,
we
don't
would
want
be.
that.
Yeah.
No. Okay, so the format of Coast to Coast AM was a call-in talk show plus news and a long-form interview. It was usually an hour-long interview and then open lines for callers to call in on, and then the news a little bit at the very beginning of the episode. There were a few different call-in numbers. They were all open lines. None of them were...
There's no screeners.
There was no screeners whatsoever.
That's amazing to me.
Yeah, it was crazy.
I mean,
yeah.
what talk show doesn't have screeners?
Coast to Coast AM.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, I think they do now, and I think it's possible that later he had... Actually, it's not possible. It's true that later in the shows, when he moved overseas, they had to have screeners because just like the call volume that they had, it was too expensive for him to have open lines. But he did have open lines. He would just, pick up the line and hit an extension and go, "Okay, you're on there. Start talking about whatever you want to talk
Wow,
about."
that's crazy.
It's
I mean,
insane.
Yeah, I mean, but I've called in a few radio talk show things before, local ones, and there's always a screener who wants to know what you want to talk about, what your point is going to be, because they want to give the guy, the host, a heads up.
Yeah, so for this one, he actually had a bunch of different dedicated lines. He had an east of the Rockies line, a west of the Rockies line, a first-time callers line, an international line, and then what he called a wild card line. And then often he would introduce specialty lines for themed callers. Usually he just took away the first-time callers line and said, okay, the first-time callers line is now this themed call-in line.
Swap it out for some other theme.
And that
title.
was the case on September 11th, 1997, which is the specific show we're going to talk about. He had opened up the first-time callers line, the number that was usually for that, for Area 51 employees and ex-employees specifically. So it was only meant for those people. And he tried, as much as you can say, like, okay, well, did you work there?
How many calls from, how many actual Area 51 people called in?
Actual or claiming?
Just claiming.
I mean, I don't know. There was no way to keep track of the number of people. He took calls all throughout the night. I think I listened to that episode, and I don't recall him actually talking to anybody other than Area 51 line callers before this incident.
So we're talking dozens and dozens?
I mean, likely. I mean, he talked to, I think, 5 that night, but I think it's likely that there were at least a dozen, more than that.
Okay, just kind of a general.
Yeah, but I have no idea, and I don't know that any of us know. I don't think that there's any way to know how many people called in on any given night.
Well, that's a good point. I mean,
Because it was an open line.
yeah.
You didn't have somebody answering.
A lot of people got a busy signal. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, that's all squared away. Now we can actually jump into the mystery. I know that our preambles sometimes annoy people, but it's important in this case.
Kind of a setup.
Yeah. So, like I said, on September 11th, 1997, as far as I can tell, the only timestamp I've actually heard is 1 a.m. Eastern time on the 12th, and Art broadcasted from Arizona, which is mountain time.
Right.
Yeah.
So that would have been, I think, 11 on the 11th-ish.
For some reason, I was thinking that RFL broadcast from the Bay Area. No? Okay.
It was Arizona.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure it was Arizona. Anyway, it was the 11th. It was actually the 11th when you could call where he was.
Yeah.
But it was late in the night. It was a late night talk show.
Definitely not prime time.
No, definitely not prime time. It was actually the most listened to late night show on air when it was on air. So that was pretty interesting. So around that time, he got a phone call. As I mentioned, there were a lot of, it was the Area 51 line that he was answering. And he had been talking to other people earlier in the night who said they worked in Area 51. One guy I listened to said he worked from Area 51 and that he had been ordered to call to talk about all this stuff because stuff was going to come to light in the next couple of days, and then acted very good. It's a really interesting show if you can get your hands on it. It's really interesting to listen to. But this specific caller called in, and we'll listen to part of it, but he called in and he was very frantic.
He said his truck was upside down in a ditch.
And he'd been stuck there for 40 years.
No, this is not Los Pueblos.
No, this is
Oh,
not.
not. Oh,
Thank
okay,
you.
sorry, I'm confused.
You are. Anyway, we'll listen to most of it, and just as a pre-warning, the thing that happens, I like to keep a little mystery around my mysteries before they drop, but the thing that happened is this guy is frantic, and he's talking about all of the information he has about Area 51, and then Coast to Coast AM was knocked off the air. Literally knocked off the air.
Go figure.
So this sound clip that we're gonna play, it's about 4 minutes long. I do apologize for the length of it. We try to keep our sound clips down to a minimum, but I think in this case, since the mystery is a sound clip, we may as well throw it in there.
True.
Okay, so the way that this sound clip goes is you'll hear the frantic caller, and then you'll hear dead air for a little while, and then you'll hear the theme song starting. Because, as I said, it was totally knocked
The
off
call
the air.
chops up, and then it goes completely silent.
Yeah,
And then
so
starts up again.
It's a little silent, and then a little silent, and then it starts up again. It's edited down, the silence in between, from what people actually heard that night.
And so, yeah, so the show was off there for how long?
I believe it was about a half an hour.
Yeah.
The station cut to archive some other show. I can't remember what it was off the top of my head. And then Art Bell picked it back up. But I think it was about a half hour that they were down for. And I think that it took them that long because part of the problem was Art didn't know that they had been knocked off the air. It's not like you have a thing that starts
The red light
behind
didn't
you.
turn off.
Yeah, I mean, he was in a sound studio room, basically, a soundproof room that you would be broadcasting from, and, all the transmitters and everything are in a different room. You don't want that in there with you because it makes noise.
Of course.
So he had to actually get up out of his chair to see, we're not broadcasting anymore.
Yeah, like they don't even have the transmitter there, right? It's a satellite feed, right?
They had a transmitter in the other room.
Yeah, it would be.
To transmit the feed out. And actually, a network representative called him and he was like, hey, your show's off the air. And he was like, what? But he'd been taking calls and
Yeah,
he'd
his
finished
engineer
talking to
didn't
this
know
guy.
if he had an engineer.
Yeah, so it was crazy. So it took them a little bit, and then it took them a little while to establish a backup for everything. So it was about a half an hour as far as I can tell.
Yeah.
So yeah, we'll listen to this thing, and then we'll pick you up on the other side.
Hello, Art?
Yes.
Hi. I don't have a whole lot of time.
Well, look, let's begin by finding out whether you're using this line properly or not.
Area 51.
Were you an employee or are you now?
A former employee.
Former employee.
I was let go on a medical discharge about a week ago, and I've kind of been running across the country. Oh man, I don't know where to start. They're gonna they'll triangulate on this position really, really soon.
Well, you can't spend a lot of time on the phone, so give us something quick.
Okay, okay, what we're thinking of as aliens, Art, they're extra-dimensional beings that an earlier precursor of the space program made contact with. They are not what they claim to be. They have infiltrated a lot of aspects of the military establishment, particularly the Area 51. The disasters that are coming, the military, I'm sorry, the government knows about them, and there's a lot of safe areas in this world that they could begin moving the population to now, Art.
But they're not doing anything.
They are not. They want the major population centers wiped out so that the few that are left will be more easily controllable.
Discharge.
I started getting...
some way, something knocked us off the air, and we're on a backup system now.
It's the government, or
I don't know.
it has to be something, though.
Well, did you hear? Now, you tell me because you were listening.
That was awful strange.
There was a really weird guy on the air when it went off?
Yeah, real weirded out.
Like going sort of sounding paranoid,
Yeah.
schizophrenic?
Like crying and everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And how far into the conversation was it when it went off?
Just a couple, about 15, 20 seconds, I'd say.
Oh, you
Something like that.
guys missed, you really missed the call then, and I've got a feeling somebody didn't want you to hear it.
Yeah.
Hey guys, we're back.
Jesus, what a drama queen.
No, I mean, yeah, but no, but yeah, but...
He seemed rather upset.
Yeah, he did, didn't he?
Maybe.
Frantic even.
Frantic, even.
Like a frantic caller.
Yeah. Art does go on to say that in all his years in broadcasting, he had never heard of anything getting knocked off the air like that. And as far as I know, that's the only time in the 31-year history of Coast to Coast AM that they have been knocked off the air. So it's a pretty big deal that they just disappeared from the airwaves for a little while.
By the way, did Art Bell's studio, did they record these calls, did they?
No, they didn't.
Damn it.
Yeah, I think because it's a live broadcast, so I don't know how they were trapping it at that time. I don't know if they were recording in studio or if they had somebody else like recording the transmission or what. Because I would expect, I don't know.
I'm presuming, Joe, that you're asking that to see if there was some way to get the conversation up until the point Art realized he was cut off.
Yeah.
Is that what you're after?
Yeah.
And instead, what we have is what it appears most of the stuff online is what listeners had recorded themselves.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. And
Yeah.
so, and did Art Bell ever say how long the conversation went on for after it got cut off?
He said a couple minutes. Yeah, and this was the interesting thing about this. Well, let's keep going a little bit, and we'll talk a little more about what Art
Yeah,
knows about
before we
this
get ahead
and
of
what
it.
we know about this broadcast. According to only one report, so this is the information that you're looking for, and since it's only one report, I really can't substantiate this at all, but it's probably worth mentioning, but take it with the hugest grain of salt you've ever seen in your entire life. When the transmitters went dead, Art switched to a digital line for transmissions, but shortly after this, his analog phone lines went down, and they weren't able to transmit for this half-hour time frame. Apparently, the caller had continued for
Minute,
about
maybe.
a minute, is what they said, and then screamed, and the line went dead.
Oh, okay.
And this is all according to a website that says it's according to a Penthouse reporter who happened to be in the studio doing an article about the show on that night. I have searched, there's no such Penthouse article on Coast to Coast AM as far as I can tell.
Penthouse does some clean work.
I mean, yeah, but I just mean that I was searching through everything. I was looking for the articles. Steve. Looking through the articles.
That's all I look at too. Yeah.
But
So-
I couldn't find anything to substantiate that there was in fact a Penthouse reporter. I couldn't find any sources for this information other than this, mystery Penthouse reporter. So I don't know that I necessarily believe it. But apparently, according to this same source,
Well, the only thing I'm going to say about that is just because this guy's in the studio doesn't mean he's writing a piece.
well, apparently he was in the studio to write a piece about Coast to Coast AM and started taking notes like feverishly when the feverish caller called in.
And there's also, we've got to keep in mind that as a journalist, you start and work on a lot of stories
Oh, for
that
sure.
get cut.
Yeah, but
So
it does
that's the only
seem-
thing I want to say. Whether it's Penthouse, Playboy, or the New York Times, if it's a reporter in the room and it gets cut, that would explain why we don't see it. I'm not saying that I think that this guy was really there.
Well, yeah, because I guess in my brain, if you had the inside scoop on something like this, hey, this radio station got knocked off the air in the middle of this really frantic call, and I have the notes and was there and heard the rest of the conversation that nobody else is talking about. Why wouldn't you just release that?
You
Take
would,
the 20 years of lore out of it.
Okay, yeah, that's fair.
but yeah, okay.
Yeah,
But
okay.
I would
Sorry,
think that he would.
rationale. Take the lore out. It's like They got knocked off the air. It totally sucked. It screwed my story totally up.
Yeah.
I'm not doing this.
That's true.
Well, I never know, but since this became a big thing, you'd think he would be, sort of motivated to publish something about what he heard
The
after he
inside
cut
scoop.
off the character.
You would
But
think that.
The thing about it is like the Area 51 guys, I'm sure, are like, just mercilessly efficient. But tracing the phone call and getting a black helicopter to the spot where the guy is and murdering him within 5-6 minutes is remarkably efficient.
Yeah, he does
Yeah.
say that they're going to triangulate his call really quickly, but
But
we'll
5-6
talk about
minutes?
that.
Yeah.
We'll talk about that